Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. In this video, I'd like to begin the discussions on how Brexit is costing us more and more to go further and further back. And I'm not sure if this is Jacob Rees-Mogg's plan to spend our way back to the 19th century, but there it is. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So now that the no-deal Brexit is real, the government are moving away from their rhetoric about the Brexit benefits and how we're all still going to enjoy frictionless trade with our neighbours towards a position of getting real about the damage that it's causing. Now, to this end, the government have bought, on the quiet, some land to use as a clearance area as it's being built for the lorries that would otherwise be jammed into massive miles-long tailbacks at the port of Dover, of course, knackering all travel around Dover as well. Ironically, the MP for the area where this giant lorry park is to be located, 20 miles away from Dover, is not at all happy about the disruption that they fear it will cause in their local area. Bit rich coming from a pro-Brexit Conservative MP, if you ask me. Classic NIMBY attitude there. But anyway, work is to begin on the site today, according to reports. And when I say the government acquired this land on the quiet, I mean literally the local council. No idea. They were just told, by the way, we've got this land, we're going to be developing it for a giant lorry park. When are you going to be doing that? Monday? As in after the weekend? Yeah. They had hours notice. You're supposed to notify people of things like this. Local residents are supposed to be able to sort of at least know about it, preferably have a say on it. And no, none of that. And it's another complete disregard for local democracy and the local residents whose lives will now be disrupted without any serious warning. But although I'll keep pointing these examples out, I am past the point of ever being surprised at just how low this government can go in terms of its disdain for the citizens of this country. And it was announced at the weekend that, the further measures were going to cost another £705 million, that this has been allocated for managing border arrangements, including the building of the extra infrastructure that we were told wouldn't be happening, and the employing of staff to deal with the extra bureaucracy that we were told would actually be reduced. And the reason why particularly costly measures are having to be adopted is because our existing ports don't have the room. We were told this a long time ago by people who work and travel through Dover. Just geographically, you can't build it up. It's not possible. Hence building a lorry park 20 miles away. Now, I don't work in haulage. I'm not going to comment on this in too much detail until I've seen people who do. So I don't know how much of an issue it is being 20 miles away. But clearly it's going to need extra resources that wouldn't otherwise be needed in order to direct lorries to a place that they wouldn't have planned to go ordinarily if we had seamless movement across the border. And they're going to need to do that in a way that minimises disruption to literally every other road user between this lorry park and the port, 20 miles away. And remember that this £705 million is new funding. The government had already allocated £6.3 billion on Brexit alone, and I think there's another £2 billion promised for something as well. But I don't know, this £705 million might be part of that extra £2 billion. And there's more to come, of course. So altogether, I think so far in terms of what they've announced, they're going to spend over £8 billion. Now, in defending this shambles, Michael Gove talked about laying the foundations of the world's most effective and secure border. Why do they always have to go for this? Oh, we're going to be the best in the world at this. I suppose it's just trying to tap into that British exceptionalism. So yeah, it's going to be the world's most effective and secure border. Now, this is the same guy who said that his plan for 2021, after he had to admit that we actually can't get our border controls in place for January, was to just open up the border. Well, just let things through. Because we can't have the controls in place in time for the end of the transition period. And he's also a minister in the government that keeps talking about world-beating ways to deal with COVID that has seen us beaten on death toll only by countries with even more extreme right-wing nutters in charge, including that world-beating COVID app that has now been thrown in the bin 12 million quid later. So I'm guessing we've got nothing to worry about. They've all got a great track record, haven't they? Only then there's that letter of Liz Truss, which I talked about last week. So it has now been published in full. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to read it yourself. Nothing particularly new in there. It was revealed what the gist of the letter was, and I talked about it last week, where she talks about the risks that the government plans for Brexit will mean in terms of increased smuggling, due to that world's most secure border, the legal challenges through the World Trade Organization, and cutting Northern Ireland adrift, weakening the union with Britain. And on a slightly related note, Michael Gove, in his round of interviews, was also talking about it being, he said it would be silly to erect a hard border between England and Scotland. That border that his boss didn't even know exists. But to harden it, he said, because it would be terrible if people who work either side of the border, suddenly lost their freedom of movement to be able to live and work either side of the border. Not a hint of irony from the man who has just taken away all of our freedom of movement rights with our surrounding neighbours. But again, this is what Brexit is, isn't it? It's, this would be a really ridiculous policy. You should all vote for this policy. Ending freedom of movement. Why would you ever do that? Oh, by the way, you all voted for end of freedom of movement. There we go. There it is. But those are my thoughts on that. There's going to be more coming, today the government is supposed to be announcing more things for their Brexit plans. More stuff may come over the week as well. If anything new or interesting comes out, obviously, I'll update as well. But until then, I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.